Here are all your Premier League fixtures for the weekend. Without question, the standout tie is on Saturday. Arsenal against Manchester United at the Emirates. A win for Arsenal would close the gap on United to just 1 point. No Lacazette, though. How much of a difference maker does that make, Robbo?
Well, Giroud will come in for him. He's a different sort of player. Obviously, Lacazette likes to make runs in behind. Giroud's good in the air. But I'm not sure it's going to make that much difference to the way the game's going to be played. Manchester United are going to sit deep, I think, and try and be compact and play on the counter-attack. Arsenal are going to dominate possession, and it's whether they can open up Manchester United in that top third. And I think they will, because Ozil's playing at his very best. Yeah. Sanchez is playing really well. The wing-backs are getting forward and getting crosses into the box. So I think Arsenal...
Are you going to say you've been brainwashed again? When you said Arsenal were going to finish in the top four.
Well, they're in the top four. They're in the top four.
Well, I know, but then you said you've been brainwashed when they had a bit of a bad start.
Well, one bad game against Liverpool.
And then you said you've been brainwashed.
Is this a double bluff? Is this a double bluff?
It is a double bluff, really, yeah. I think Arsenal, at the moment, are playing some of their best football.
I've really no idea which way he's going round the track at the moment.
At the moment, you have to say Arsenal are playing well. They've been excellent against Spurs.
Or clockwise?
Excellent against Spurs. They've got the right formation. It's a settled side, apart from, obviously, Lacazette being out. The wing-backs are doing well. It's got three centre-halves. Xhaka and Ramsey are playing far better than they ever have without the ball for quite some while.
So Wenger's doing a great job.
Absolutely. I'm going to say Wenger Manager of the Year, of course.
Wow.
Even though I called him a clown last night.
It's the draw for the knockout stages, according to Gav, then. Mr. Marcos, you look at this. Who has got the easier of the paths of the big sides, would you suggest?
Probably Brazil. I would guess.
Yeah, Brazil have got a nice route pretty much in the semi-final, haven't they?
That they'll definitely beat Mexico in the round of 16. France, I think Nigeria, if it is Nigeria, could be a trap game, and obviously either of the other two, I think, could be dangerous. Heavyweight matchup coming in the top right corner, Spain and Argentina, possibly.
Sure.
And in the quarters, obviously that's going to be huge, and an old favorite. Germany, England.
Yeah. We know how that ends. We know how that ends.
You take a look at the left. You prefer to be on the left side, wouldn't you, of that bracket, most definitely to the right. Brazil and France really the only standout sides.
Spain, Argentina, Germany.
Yeah, most definitely.
You were going to throw England in there, but you stopped.
You stopped.
No, that's fair enough.
I just put the brakes on when I got down to Colombia. I just hit the brakes.
and that was that. Belgium, Panama, Tunisia and England make up the Three Lions group. Robbo, as an Englishman, you must be delighted.
Couldn't be any easier, could it?
Well, famous last word.
I wouldn't say England are a great side at the moment, but they're better, certainly, than the last two that were drawn. Panama are the worst team in the tournament, I would say. So England have got a very comfortable draw.
They'll be delighted with this, won't they, Craig?
I think Roberto Martinez and Gareth Southgate are somewhere in a restaurant in Russia now, opening a nice bottle of red wine.
Sure.
Celebrating, because... I mean, it will be a tussle to see who gets top slot in this group, but yeah, I would expect those two to easily win this, be the first two to go through.
As a contrarian on the panel, can you make any arguments for Tunisia or Panama?
I think you can make an argument for Tunisia. There's a big gap in class, but we've seen this again at the World Cup. And I remind everybody, England, Uruguay, Italy, Costa Rica in the group, everybody's having a laugh saying which one of the three superpower World Cup winners is going to win the group, and then we saw Costa Rica won it. There are parallels, I think, between Tunisia and Costa Rica in terms of the way they play, in the terms that they can make things tough for you. But really, that is the only way I could see anybody splitting Belgium and England.
So that Australia, Peru, Denmark. Who have you got?
I would go for Peru. I don't think Denmark, apart from Ericsson, haven't got players that can create enough. Australia, they qualified, beating Honduras, but it was a tough trip for Honduras. The manager's resigned. I don't think they've got any players that you'd call outstanding players. So I think Peru, if everybody's fit for them and they can keep everybody
No love for Tim Cahill?
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's a good player. He's been an excellent player, but he can't still perform at a World Cup to a high level at his age.
He's going to prove you wrong.
Probably, he may well do.
I'm going to go with Peru, and then the big caveat is what happens with Paulo Guerrero and his doping situation and whether he gets banned or not. You just mentioned the lack of depth in smaller South American size. Well, that's the definition of Peru right there. If you don't have Paulo Guerrero, you don't have anybody else that can play the role that he plays and brings everybody else into the attack. He is the focal point of their attack. He holds all the play and allows all the other playmakers to get around him. If he's available, Peru advances.
Any love for the Socceroos?
No, I think they did well to scrape themselves into the World Cup. Happy about that, but no, I don't see it, and I don't see Denmark been good enough to get out as well. I see Peru going through in second place, particularly for the experience of the teams that they had to play in qualifying in South America.
Australia, Gab, any chance in your eyes?
I think it's going to be really, really tough. And, you know, even against a team like Denmark, and I agree this is not a great team, and they're, you know, if Christian Eriksen shows up, then obviously you're in trouble. If he doesn't show up, and sometimes he doesn't show up, you still have to work your way through a whole bunch of experienced players, so no.
Group B sees Portugal, Spain, Iran and Morocco all drawn together. Ali, from a Spanish perspective, this could have been so much worse, considering they're in the second pot.
Which they should have never been the second pot.
Sure.
Let's start there. But when you're Spain, you look at this and you say, well, it's us and Portugal.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And the way that Spain has been playing, and Lopetegui, the transition that he has had for this team, where he has taken this team from what was an older group to now a group that has experience but also has value of younger legs. And that's going to be important for Spain in the competition. I see Spain not only winning this group, but certainly being a major player in the tournament.
And then is it all about Portugal and Morocco as to who's going to finish second?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, got a bit of history with the Moroccans in
Sure.
World Cups. Back in '98 when they beat us to qualify in second place, they thought, but Norway went on and beat Brazil, so they haven't had much luck in that sense. And Portugal again showed at the Euros that they're a big team tournament. We don't know what state Cristiano Ronaldo will be in at that point, but they're a very, very difficult team to beat. They organise themselves well, so I'm going to go for the two European teams.
Yep.
Yeah, in Portugal, I think a tremendous tournament manager in Fernando Santos, too. I wouldn't underestimate Iran. You could get a situation where, you know, Morocco, Iran, if this game ends up a draw, then Portugal are laughing even if they lose to Spain. But whichever team wins that game between Morocco and Iran, I think then, you know, it becomes a playoff against Portugal, and then things can get I think, really interesting. Otherwise, on paper, Spain and Portugal.
Last word to you, Robert.
You can't argue with that. The only thing I would say about Morocco, they've got a coach that's done very well at the African Cup of Nations. He managed Ivory Coast to win the title. I think it was Zambia as well to win the title, so he's a tournament coach. So they may just cause a surprise, Morocco.
Gentlemen, thank you very much, of course, for a lot more on today's World Cup draw. Keep it here online.
Welcome to the FC debate. The World Cup draw is upon us. Out of the 32 teams, gentlemen, how many can realistically win the tournament?
For me, 5. Brazil, who are my picks to win it all. Germany, Spain, who I think are the next best 2 teams in world football. I think France, if things go right, I think they would have learned from that experience of losing in the Euro final. And I think Argentina, purely because of the names they have on paper. Nothing they've done on the field outside of Lionel Messi's own individual performances suggests as much. But when you look at this team and how stacked it is, if somehow they turn things around and get it right, they have a chance. Nobody else.
I'd add another team to that, and that's Belgium. They've got some good players.
Oh, the dark horses as always.
Yeah, I think they're starting to become a team. The only thing that could let them down is Roberto Martinez has not had any tournament experience as a player or as a coach, which might, because it is difficult when you're coaching or managing in tournament environment. Will he be able to cope with some of the big egos there? If he can, they've got a good chance of winning.
They could win it though, Gab, couldn't they?
Of course they could, and I'm going to go further. I think we often forget that this is a 1 month tournament, and it's a knockout tournament. A lot of things can go on. I would certainly include England as a team that could, I'm not saying they will, but a team that
Shaka's popping up over there.
It's England. It's just Stevie's face. You should have seen Stevie's face.
How do you want better?
This is the same England that had Jermaine Defoe in the squad not that long ago.
Yeah,
Hey, Jermaine Defoe.
And if it were a league, I would agree with you. But it's not. It's a World Cup. So I don't see why it's absurd to say they can win it. And now I'll go even further.
Senegal, are you going to say them now?
Russia? You're going to say Russia?
Senegal, No.
Iceland. What about Iceland?
I wouldn't rule out. I was actually going to say Senegal, because when you've got a spine of Koulibaly, Gay, Kouyaté, and Mane up front, that's pretty good. Once you get going, let's not forget Costa Rica last time, where everybody went and giggled at, right? Costa Rica went out in the quarterfinals on penalty kicks to Holland. But that's fine.
He did well.
Not many teams have won.
Yeah, but
won the World Cup.
We're talking
realistically,
about,
who's going to win it?
We're talking about who's
No,
going
that's
to
not the
win
question. The question is who can win the World Cup.
Can realistically win it?
Yes, I think realistically, these teams aren't beaten. These teams can get hot. Uruguay. If Uruguay get to the quarterfinals, and then all of a sudden Suarez and Cavani go on some kind of tear, even Portugal. Crazy as it is.
No, that's crazy.
Okay.
That's what everyone thought
That
at the
is crazy.
Euros.
Portugal won the Euros. Let's not forget.
Without winning a game in 90 minutes.
You don't need to. It's the World Cup. I mean, this is how.
So
this
how
is
many are
it
you
works.
saying?
I think you're a bit
5,
optimistic.
6?
Cal.
I'm
Everybody, apparently.
No,
I think you're being
I'm gonna go
optimistic.
as high as
5, 6, 32.
as 11 or 12.
Panama, have they got a chance of that?
You know what? I hope somebody's saving this. No, seriously, I don't think Panama aren't going to win it. But I love this sort of whole first worldism where it's going to be the same guys over and over again. Yeah, I know. He's about to wind up. How funny! He's here all week.
Now we're getting that.
Oh, how funny,
Too
Stuart.
soon,
You know, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
We got 4 of those at home. Very happy to let the rest of you go and fight over the World Cup.
Wow.
I think you got through the armour there.
You know.
Stevie, how many on your list? As
I'm with
Shaka said,
Shaka.
5, 6, 32.
Yeah, I'm with Shaka. I kind of thought about Belgium, and then I thought, Roberto Martinez, having not had any tournament experience, and I'm not so sure he can sort out a defence either. And you need to defend at a World Cup, so that's why I'll rule them out. But I'm with Shaka as 5.
Let's check out Group C, shall we? France, Peru, Denmark and Australia. Before we hear from the boys in the studio, Julianne Laurent is with us. Julianne, France, got to be loving this.
Yeah, we take that every day. Didier Deschamps and the players really wanted to avoid Spain and England from that pot 2 and a few of the other bigger names in pot 3 and 4, and that's exactly what happened. It reminds me a lot of the 2014 World Cup group stage for France with Switzerland, Ecuador and Honduras as well. I think it should be the same for France. They will get stronger and stronger as the game goes through in the group stages to be ready then for the knockout stage. And they'll be very, very happy with that.
Great draw for France, obviously.
Yeah, 3 teams that come through the playoffs, so not great qualifying campaign for those teams. Probably Peru and the most difficult in South America. They would arguably be the second strongest team in there. The Aussies are not at the best, and the Danes rely heavily on Christian Eriksen, so the French are way, way out in front in this group.
France to win the group, obviously. Gav, who's going to finish second?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because obviously Eriksen can change games, but he can also be a non-factor. And you look at Peru, you have another huge question mark there. Jefferson Farfan at his age, and obviously whatever happens with Paulo Guerrero's done so well in Brazil, and Australia with the coaching change, it's more question marks, and this is not a particularly talented Australian generation compared to a few years ago.
So did you say anyone that's going to finish second? Or just sort of noise?
I was talking about the different factors, but yeah, no, I think Peru would edge it.
Peru?
Yeah.
Yeah,
even without Guerrero.
Well, now that's where I have an issue. If Guerrero's not available because of this doping allegation, if he is suspended, then I don't see Peru having enough in the attack to make it and pass the group stage. So it is a big point and it's a big caveat for Peru. If Guerrero's available, Peru advances. If not, I think they're very limited in the attack.
Australia aren't going to be good enough to challenge any team. They're not that well organised now. They used to be strong. They used to have 1 or 2 good individuals. They're not that anymore. As Gab said, change of coaching staff as well. And Denmark are uninspiring. Eriksen can, on his day, pick out passes and lead the line or create opportunities, but they're not good enough. Peru will come second.
France, Brazil, Switzerland, Costa Rica and Serbia make up Group E. For Brazil, obviously they'll be happy with this group. The others will not be as much.
I don't think Brazil were really quaking at the draw anyway, knowing that, ultimately they're a very strong side at the moment. Costa Rica getting out of their World Cup group in 2014, winning it was incredible, so you couldn't write them off. The Swiss, they're organised, they're not the best team to watch. And the Serbians, a bit like the Croatians, have got some really talented players, but they've had their own problems as well. So I think it's really close for second place here between all of those 3 teams. I really think it's too hard to pick one.
Let's take a look at this from a CONCACAF angle, shall we? Hercules Gomez with us. Costa Rica, how are they feeling about this draw, Herc?
Well, I think they feel a lot better about this draw than they did last World Cup draw, being in the group of death. And this Costa Rican team, that has a tendency to surprise. They're a very well-organized team. Defensively, they set themselves up very nicely on the counter. They're disciplined. I wouldn't discount this team taking second place. I know, obviously, Brazil is the favorite for first place. But like Craig said, second place is anybody's go, and Costa Rica has as good of a chance as anybody.
Gab.
I'm very bullish on Serbia.
You really like Serbia. You've been banging on about this.
You know, we always deal in the present. We're talking now on December 1st, but you have to kind of project 7 months down the line. I think there's some players that can grow. I think some of the issues that they've had, which I think are largely behind them already, might go away. And you think about a guy like Milinkovic-Savic, who seems to be getting better by the week. He could be a real force here. And we're still talking about second place and all the provisos. Switzerland, not the kind of team that's fun to play against because of the way they play. Costa Rica, even less fun, given the way they play. But I think there's enough individual weapons in the Serbia team to grab second place.
Well, you made your case for Serbia, and then if you're going to make a case for Switzerland, you watch the playoff against Northern Ireland, you think, well, this team, it just, there's nothing there. There really isn't. I mean, there's some names. Shaqiri may do something here and there, but you have Seferovic playing up top. He cannot finish a chance to save his life. So then, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Embolo that comes in and does something? I just don't see that Switzerland has enough in the attack. And if I'm going to be bored to death, I'd rather be bored to death by a team like Costa Rica rather than Switzerland. So I'll pick Costa Rica to go.
You want to take Serbia? They won't bore you. Well, they're not boring.
You made the argument
and
for
they're
Serbia.
better than those
I'm
two.
taking Costa Rica. I like Costa Rica better. Pura vida, baby.
I'm going to go for Costa Rica as well.
Yeah, just to annoy Gab.
Yeah, I know. I agree with Ali. Switzerland aren't good enough at the moment. They've got some decent players, but not enough going forward. I'm not sure about their coach either. So I think it's going to be Costa Rica to get second place.
Good stuff, boys. Thank you very much. For a lot more, of course, on today's World Cup draw. Keep it here online. Let's focus on Group F, shall we? Germany, Mexico, Sweden and South Korea. Before we hear the boys in the studio, let's go out to Hercules Gomez. Herc, this isn't ideal, is it, for Mexico?
I feel it's a very difficult group for Mexico. I mean, you're talking about 3 teams that historically they've played against in the World Cup. A Germany team that in Confederations Cup destroyed them. This is a very difficult Sweden team, and this South Korea team is no slouch. I know that historically they've played each other in World Cup. It seems that they've always lost to Germany. They end up tying Sweden, and they'll end up beating South Korea. So the consensus is 1-1-1 in group play, and then to face off as second in that group against Brazil. It's not looking good for Mexico. There is a lot of optimism, though. This is a Mexican team that's only one of 3 teams to advance the last 7 World Cups onto the second round. The thing is, they're not looking for the advancement out of the second round anymore. That's just not good enough for Juan Carlos Osorio and his men. They're looking for that 5th game. They're looking for that quarterfinal spot and more.
I would be a wee bit more positive.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I don't think this is a bad group at all. I mean, albeit, okay, you've got...
Sweden did knock out a poor Italy side.
Let me get there.
Very poor Italy side.
We know I don't want to harp about this Confederations Cup again, but they know Germany beat Mexico with we'll call it a B team, you can call it. But in terms of getting second spot in the group, I don't think this is bad at all.
No?
I think the Mexicans should have more talent than the other 2 teams in this group. I know Sweden put out Italy, but that was to the detriment of Italy's poor performances over the 180 minutes. In South Korea, I think this is actually... I think Mexico will just target second place here, and they, for me, are better than the other 2 teams, or should be better than the other 2 teams in this.
But that's exactly the issue, the fact that they're not going to get any better than second place. And so to Hercules' points, this is the conversation in Mexico is not about getting out of the group, is what you do after that. And if you're going to play Brazil in the next round, then it's game, set, match. Thanks for coming. We appreciate your efforts. We'll see you in 4 years. And that is the reality for Mexico.
I think, having watched more of Sweden than I care to ever watch, I think it's going to be, I agree that this is not a particularly gifted Sweden team, but there are wild cards. I think Emil Forsberg, in the same way we talked about Denmark with Christian Eriksen, if Emil Forsberg is on, that's a really tough out, I think, for anybody. And I think critical in that is how you match up. Sweden are a very big team physically. And so I think Osorio is going to have to be clever. I'll tell you what, he's not going to do a worse job than Ventura did against Sweden, because that's frankly impossible. So
don't make it about Italy, Gab.
No,
let it go, bro.
I didn't even bring it up, man. I didn't even bring it up.
Who have you got finishing second then?
I went for Mexico.
Right.
This is not a great Korean team right now. Again, relative to previous World Cups as well.
I followed Sweden throughout their qualifying campaign. They're not a very good side. They want to play very defensively, they want to be compact. I can't see where the goals are going to come from. They did it well against Italy. I saw them play against Holland twice. I saw them play against France twice. I don't think they're a very good side, so for that reason, Mexico have to come second.
Unless he changes his mind
Who?
And Zlatan comes back.
Oh, here we go.
Oh,
That'll make all the difference.
that'll make a
then.
difference.
How did that work out at the Euros?
Yeah. Have you touched the ball? Thank you very much, boys, of course, for a lot more content on the World Cup. Keep it here online. Welcome to Extra Time. It's been a long day on the couch.
Yep.
So, the old World Cup
certainly
draw dominated. Gab's going back to London tomorrow.
Indeed.
Have you enjoyed your time here?
I certainly have.
Yeah.
Good.
Enjoyed those chicken wings last night, didn't you?
I enjoyed the
dear.
chicken wings.
You ordered 60 between two of you?
60 between 4.
Wow.
60 chicken wings.
Gab had 40.
That's
Yeah.
15 each in theory.
Who else was there? All right, I think I know.
He was counting, Stuart. Your little pad out.
It's disgraceful.
Oh, yeah?
Pete Van Leer. Oh my.
Oh,
goodness
people
gracious.
don't care who that is. Which country could give the biggest surprise in the World Cup? Which one could be the biggest disappointment? Biggest surprise?
Oh.
Depends how far down you go, but I like Nigeria. And I like
Nigeria? Okay. Craig? Good. Robbo?
Morocco, because I like their manager. Hervé Renard, he's a good manager.
Oh, he's-
I'm sure they're going to cause Portugal a problem.
You're obsessed with Morocco. Biggest,
Iceland,
biggest
surprise.
surprise?
Serbia?
Belgium, biggest.
Biggest disappointment. Right, let's move on. We've talked about the World Cup quite a lot, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Has Fergie time changed to Pep time? It's maybe referring to the Raheem Sterling goal. When was the other goal earlier on in the season, wasn't it, away against someone?
Only a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Who did they score late
Oh, well,
against?
this doesn't make great TV.
You know my views on this, so I don't need to go through this again.
What are your views?
Don't ask. Has it changed to Pep time, Craig?
What's that?
Fergie time?
What happened in the World Cup draw today?
Well, lots.
That's what happens when you get brain freeze after being in for
Final
8 hours
question.
with you.
If you didn't get into football, what would your dream job be? Gab, I think in the past, didn't you say you wanted to be a wrestler?
An all-in wrestler.
Well, I said I really.
Oh,
Yeah!
I wouldn't necessarily want to be him, but yeah.
Well, I mean, not far
What's
off.
that black bit? Oh, there.
That's more like
That's more like it.
Yeah, okay.
Beautiful.
That's in your younger days, wasn't
It
it?
certainly was.
scary.
Look at the dark hair, look.
When I was at the ECW, those ECW shows.
Yeah.
Do you know if we had a bet? I think you could get your body like that.
Which one?
Which body there?
Oh, no, the first one was him. I mean, the second one.
What would you have been if you were a
Incentivising us?
footballer? What would you have been if you were a footballer? I don't know. You must have answered this in the past. This is a standard journalism question to... It's like, what would you be if you were a footballer, electrician? What's your
Can I
favourite
answer for
food?
him?
Steak?
Professional golfer.
Professional golfer, maybe? I don't know. I've seen his chip in, it's not...
It's just.
It's got better.
Well, there you are.
Still managed to get it round.
Ali? A doctor? You did
Yes,
medicine,
I
didn't
would have
you?
loved to have been a doctor.
There we go.
I'd like to be I'd gone to you as a doctor.
Go home.
Doctor, I'm feeling I don't feel too soft. Soft.
What's wrong with you?
Get on and don't come back.
Go away.
About that, right?
I'm sure you would have had great bedside manner.
Oh yeah, I do come in.
Architect. That's what I would like to have been.
Really?
Yeah. A bit of drawing and planning the house. That'd be very nice.
Oh, nice.
Would there have been wing bats? There'd be wing
Yeah, I'd have little things on the side as wing back.
And if the plant pot's going up the outside here,
Yeah.
we're going to play 3 windows at the back. So we can see out.
No, never have odd windows at the back. It's always got to be 2 or 4 or 6.
You need
Can't
your
have odd
symmetry,
numbers.
Craig.
Yeah,
Symmetry.
symmetries. That's the key.
Yeah, the old ACD kicking in again.
I'll tell you what,
Yeah,
when-
OCD.
OCD.
Not ACD. I think that's a group, isn't it?
Yeah, okay,
I wouldn't feel very confident if I was building a house and you came round with the drawings.
Why not?
What's your point?
I'd feel much more confident with him as an architect as you as a doctor.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah.
What do you want to be?
A male model
what
we
I
saw
wanna be
earlier
when I
on,
grow
didn't we?
Actually.
Oh, jockey.
No.
Oh, that's natural.
But you know what?
No, it's gone.
Gigolo?
All right, Robert. Calm down.
Well, I've seen you in action, so I know.
What about pantomime?
Pantomime what?
Snow White.
What's wrong? Right, let's move. Go.
Wow.
Well, interesting to see if this makes air. ESPN FC is back Sunday, midnight Eastern on ESPN2. Robbo. You take a look at most of the big leagues in Europe, you could call pretty much all of them at the moment, with exception. Italy, you take a look at how it is. 1 point, as we mentioned. Inter, meanwhile, have a game in hand, so they could go top of the table if they win that. Roma with a 3-1 victory today. They are in fourth with a game in hand as well. Lazio with 2 games in hand on Napoli, and Juventus can still close the gap at the top. This is something that you've been wanting to see, obviously, in Italy for a while. Is this something that can go right through the season?
I think so. I mean, look, I think a lot depends on how much the Champions League takes out of these teams and how far they go. And obviously, Inter not involved in the Champions League, and really, I think getting
Inter are real title contenders, yeah, Gab?
I think so, because Spalletti really hasn't had time to really work. We haven't seen Inter play particularly well like a Spalletti team. It's been more of a focus on settling things down, riding Icardi, getting the results. I expect Inter to play better and become more dangerous in the second half of the season. Juventus, if they're like last year, Allegri finds the magic formula in January, and then they can go and ride that. I certainly don't see Napoli giving up. In fact, I think they'll get reinforcements in January. And as for Roma, maybe they're the one that can drop off if they go further in the Champions League. But based on what we saw so far, Roma right up there in the mix.
Where are you standing, Rob, on the title race?
Before the game, I thought Napoli were the best team in Serie A. I still think they are the best side, but that will give Juventus confidence. And as Gab said, if...
Is it between those two? Like, Inter aren't in Europe, are they? So
but I think it's between those two. I still don't see Inter challenging for they're going to challenge for the title, but they're not going to win the 2 top spots.
Right.
I think, as Gab said, Spalletti's still trying to find the right formula. They will probably go and buy players in January, but they're not quite there yet, and it's going to be between Napoli and Juventus. And I still think Napoli will.
You going for Napoli, Al?
I'm taking Juventus.
Yeah.
After what I saw today, I'm taking Juventus simply because I saw a team that knows how to win, and I saw another team that is searching ways to become a champion. Juventus knows what being a champion is like. Napoli's searching for that, and I don't think they're going to find it this year.
Roma?
No. Loaded question.
It's good. Well, it's good
I'm going to go for Inter.
Yeah?
No European football, and if they can keep Icardi going the way he is, and he's got a World Cup coming up for Argentina, he wants to prove himself. If he can stay in the goals, I think they could do it this year.
It's going to be good. It went great for the neutral. Australia, Peru, Denmark. Who have you got?
I would go for Peru. I don't think Denmark, apart from Ericsson, haven't got players that can create enough. Australia, they qualified, beating Honduras, but it was a tough trip for Honduras. The manager's resigned. I don't think they've got any players that you'd call outstanding players. So I think Peru, if everybody's fit for them and they can keep everybody
No love for Tim Cahill?
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's a good player. He's been an excellent player, but he can't still perform at a World Cup to a high level at his age.
He's going to prove you wrong.
Probably, he may well do.
I'm going to go with Peru, and then the big caveat is what happens with Paulo Guerrero and his doping situation and whether he gets banned or not. You just mentioned the lack of depth in smaller South American size. Well, that's the definition of Peru right there. If you don't have Paulo Guerrero, you don't have anybody else that can play the role that he plays and brings everybody else into the attack. He is the focal point of their attack. He holds all the play and allows all the other playmakers to get around him. If he's available, Peru advances.
Any love for the Socceroos?
No, I think they did well to scrape themselves into the World Cup. Happy about that, but no, I don't see it, and I don't see Denmark being good enough to get out as well. I see Peru going through in second place, particularly for the experience of the teams that they had to play in qualifying in South America.
Australia, Gab, any chance in your eyes?
I think it's going to be really, really tough, and you know, even against a team like Denmark, and I agree this is not a great team, and they're, you know, if Christian Eriksen shows up, then obviously you're in trouble. If he doesn't show up, and sometimes he doesn't show up, you still have to work your way through a whole bunch of experienced players. So no.